shout out to like Comic Tom 101 on YouTube. I think he mentions the best way to get more comics is to sell comics. And I'm like, this sounds familiar to the drug game, but okay.
I've heard a lot of addiction recovery stories, and I don't think I've ever heard one quite like that. Am I dissing other content creators even in this interview? I'm hopeless. I'm here with Taylor from Scarlet Spider Comics, and you might know of Scarlet Spider Comics from the Mr. Hargrave channel because we have been talking about them for years now, and you might have credits that you can use on Whatnot. The link is down below if you don't have the $15 credit. We're going to talk about that in the video, but we're going to talk about some more interesting things as well. I just want to make sure that if you have one of those $15 credits and you haven't used it, we know there's 270 of you out there who haven't used it. Go use it because we're not sure how long that's going to last, and it's free comics or whatever. You can check out the link, but yeah, you see it all there. All right, but look, that's not what I really wanted to talk about. That's good. I want you guys to get your $15, but Scarlet Spider Comics, Taylor, I want to know more about you. We've been working together for years, and we've had a great partnership on this channel, but you have a fascinating life story that I've received little sprinklings of, little breadcrumbs through the years. And I wanted to have you on now that we're doing these interviews to kind of get more from you about, what your path to being an independent comic seller on Whatnot has been.
Yeah, for sure. My name's Taylor. You guys have probably seen an ad here at some point. It's got my fiance Dana in it as well, and we are Scarlet Spider Comics. We are a self-propelled comic book store on the app Whatnot.
Very, very punk rock.
Yeah, and that's a huge part of my story here. Eventually, like punk has always been a big part of my life, so that kind of helped with the indie part of this.
Very DIY. But, I think that's one of our main connections.
Yeah, for sure.
We're just making do with the stuff we got.
Definitely. And then the most, I guess, important part of what the story hinges on is that Dana and I are also drug addict alcoholics, and that kind of is what led up to us.
That's a double whammy. That's two things.
Yeah, two things.
I wasn't aware it was
more
both
than two things going into our bodies at most times, and
Ouch.
Coming through that and finding comics, I guess, is the moral at the end of all this. But
how does the one thing lead to the other thing, or away?
Yeah,
I guess.
So Dana's got their own story. Ours obviously interconnect at some point. Mine, for the sake of time and for the sake of the points we're trying to make, I guess, is the last 4 years are the most important. 10 of all my 20s basically, and before that, but the last 10 years before the last 4 were me being completely addicted to alcohol, crystal meth, cocaine, a few other things, tried it all, done it all, whatever. But yeah, so most of my story is me surviving as a drug addict, whether that be homeless, in jail, destroying my family,
Wow.
bouncing around states, treatment centers, sober houses. The struggle, which can't really be described quickly by any means, eventually led me multiple times to the Twin Cities and Minneapolis, because by far the only state, I would say, even with treatment programs for people who are homeless or who need to get put into one by force or need living right afterwards. So that's how my life took me out of Omaha, Nebraska, where I grew up, to staying now in Minnesota, but also most of my 20s in Minnesota, just living this kind of lie, but also trying to get sober, but also being forced up here many times trying to make that happen. So I wasn't originally here by choice, but I stuck around because the lifestyle, at least if it fell through, would always lead to a sober home or a treatment center.
So you kind of had that safety net going for you.
Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't say my family would never have me home, but I definitely wasn't expecting far into my 20s to have a place to go back to at that point.
So at a certain point, you knew that system was gonna fail. The cycle that you were running through, addiction and drugs and alcohol, into treatment and then back out and back in and back out.
Yeah,
You
just
knew like
every
that
it's
you were gonna wear out your welcome eventually, and you had to do something about that.
yeah, and it's becomes part of the process too. You're restarting your life every
So
three to
what made it
six
what made
months.
it stick? How were you able to finally break that cycle?
Um, I guess probably about 4.5 years ago or so, I was in a relationship that I'm not in anymore. But I was kind of I'd stumbled upon like a actually I got one next to me. There we go. I was at a half price books and I found a page of this book torn out. This is Amazing Spider-Man 33, but you got Spider-Man under the wreckage and whatnot, famous cover. But I picked up like a page of that book that was for sale because I remembered it as a kid. Like nowhere during my time injecting drugs or drinking am I reading comics. I just always liked them.
Okay.
But seeing that there, I bought it because I was like, the nostalgia high of it was, I'm going to take this home. And I started buying comics after that, just randomly. And
You traded one
I got
addiction for another. I think the comic book addiction is
that
better.
was the goal, I think, deep down. But like, I started
I
buying
understand it.
Spider
As
Man.
a person who has an addictive personality myself, I've talked about addiction a lot on this channel, but not drug addiction, like mobile video game addiction, that sort of thing. Like I have it. It runs in my family. If people don't know, my father was an alcoholic drug abuser. That's how he eventually passed.
Same. Yeah.
It usually runs in our families, and it's something that I was cognizant of my entire life. And I've got to put that somewhere. It's got to go like there. It's very hard to deny that part of your personality if it exists. I found, and finding a healthy outlet for it is the best way. So that's awesome.
That's what was great too. Like, I didn't know that this was going to be an eventual gift in that way.
Yeah, you're just nostalgia, and you're buying some
Yeah, I'm
comics,
trying to get
and it
a
was
bunch of
feeling good.
Spider-Mans, add nostalgia, and then you realize, that you're pretty poor because you're a drug addict and you're living in a sober home and you want more comics at that point, and you're pretty good at chasing down drugs, so you're gonna figure out how to make comics happen. So I shout out to like Comic Tom 101 on YouTube, probably one of the biggest comic streamers, good friend. Started watching a bunch of his videos. He's like the best. I think he mentions the best way to get more comics is to sell comics. And I'm like, this sounds familiar to the drug game, but okay. So I was like, now I've decided to start an eBay store to fund my Spider-Man habit out of a sober home. And it's not a business by any means at this point, but it's working. Figured out how to put comics between cardboard pieces and send them in envelopes. And
Wow, wow, that is an amazing story. I'm blown away. I, I've heard a lot of addiction recovery stories, and I don't think I've ever heard one quite like that. It's
I mean, I
amazing.
wish that was the happy ending. It does save me in a bit here. You know, I still fell apart multiple times for
Okay,
years in between
okay.
that.
All right, so we're not there yet.
I
We've
noticed
seen the light a little bit, but we're still struggling at
yeah,
this point.
it became, I was starting to put together larger periods of sobriety, but I was still falling
Okay,
harder from it. But
gotcha.
I kept having this thing I could come back to. I was like, this is my own. This is not generating any money, but it's filling my time and
Yeah.
it's interesting to me. But eventually I think there's probably like a 6 month or so just bouncing around hotels, abusive relationship I can't get out of, taking like
Wow.
crowbars to the face and glass in the morning. Just at that point, the
That
comic
sounds
book
like pro
business is not
wrestling.
working.
You got
Yeah, I
if you're
know. I'm
gonna
like
do that, you got to do it in a ring, man. You can't do
real
that in a hotel
AEW
room.
stuff at that point.
Yeah.
The comic business took a back seat, and the punk
Jesus.
punk idea kind of I think saved me because like when you're in these moments, you always end up with like a moment of clarity or something, no matter how messed up you are.
Yeah,
And I think,
hitting bottom can be rather sobering, right?
yeah. So I'm just sitting in bed with this, try not to badmouth the ex here, this person. And I'd remembered years ago, like you'd go to AA meetings around the city if you're in a sober home. And I had ended up at like Pride Institute once for a meeting.
Yeah, we've talked about Pride Institute on this
Yeah.
channel. Yeah, we raised money for them once. They're great at
Yeah, that
great
was the
place. Yeah.
first thing we ever did with you,
Yeah.
basically. And LGBTQ treatment center, uh, me and all my punkness or whatever, it resonated as an idea for me. Not so much labels don't matter so much to me on the whole sexual identity thing, but like this seemed like, these people, when I visited them at this treatment center, seemed happy. They got colored hair. They're trying to discover their identity. And
I've always fit in
with,
better with that community myself. Like I'm
yeah,
in a straight relationship and everything, but I've said many times the LGBT community is more welcoming of open thinkers. Let's just say open, like
yeah.
open thought, like just not
I don't
being.
want to box who they are.
Yeah, you're not so
But
boxed. Like
I figured,
clearly, I'm off the beaten path over here.
yeah,
It's
I
going
was
to be
like,
harder.
so if these people, if you simplify that they are also drug addicts and are probably suffering from somewhat of an identity crisis if
Yeah.
they're all together too. I think that was missing in me at that point, and it resonated. So I called there, got in, and that's where I met my current fiance, Dana.
All right.
Which
Speaking
I
of Dana, let's go ahead and cut to a spot.
All right, and now a word from our very nice, very evil sponsors.
My husband has always been a big fan of AEW wrestling and all things collectible. But I have to say, ever since he found this new app, Whatnot, he's been a bit different. I know Whatnot is the largest online marketplace to buy and sell collectibles, but I never imagined it would level up my partner's ability to collect anything, anytime, anywhere so quickly. I'm signing up right now for a free $15 to spend on anything I like on the app. Through Scarlet Spider Comics invite link, free money, and it also helps benefit. Whether you're very nice or very evil, use the QR code or the link at whatnot.com/invite/Scarlet Spider Comics to receive $15 to spend on endless variety of collectibles on Whatnot and support the Mr. Heartgrave channel. AEW fans, make sure to check out Love That Danhausen on Whatnot, where you can catch Danhausen live selling merch and other items from his personal collection and Gravediggers. Keep digging.
Cool.
That was one of the coolest things I've ever been able to play on the channel, by the way. I've been playing it on both channels. And guys, go use the link down below. If you have the credits, use them. Please use them. We honestly don't know how long this program is going to last for. I'm hoping it's going to last for the rest of the year, but it might go down next month. So use your credits, get the $15 credit, use it. It helps support Taylor and Dana, and it helps support the channel. And it gives you free stuff. It gives you free stuff. And if you go to Scarlet Spider Comics right now on, let's go ahead and show, I was going to cue this up. If you go over here right now to their page on Whatnot, they have auctions coming up, and on any of these live auctions you have like a buy it now section where you can just use that $15 credit right away. Is that right, Taylor?
Yeah, specifically though, the one in the middle, Dana and the makeup, Dan
Right here.
has free shipping for you guys if you're international.
Oh, awesome.
Anything, literally, you just have to click a button and get free comics if you have the credit in there.
So you just jump in here and there's a buy now, and you can just buy $15 right here. This is how you do it. There's 100 available. I imagine you'll pop up more if they're needed. And
yeah, definitely.
And boom, you can just buy them right here. Go use your credit. Okay, all right. We've plugged enough. Let's get back to the story. But I just want to make sure people use that credit because we honestly don't know. It's a really cool program, incentive program that they developed there with the $15 credit. And it really is no strings attached. There's nothing funky about it. When I guess this is a good segue because when you first came to me, right, I was so skeptical. I thought like these guys are scamming in some way. Like I get a lot of messages. I get a lot of people trying to scam me. It's like, what is this Whatnot thing? Like I've heard of What app. What's a Whatnot? What is going
on? wet behind the ears too, that like this wasn't even a business move.
Yeah.
We just wanted to send this guy free comics.
So you had me at free comics. You know, that was a good selling point. You're like, we want to send you some free comics. I'm like, okay. Like, you know, is there going to be like a bomb in the package? You know, I'm going to open this up and it's Arthur. You know, like
The
okay.
ultimate docs, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? You know, yeah, you're trying to get my address for it's you know, all right. We got past that, and the more I work with you guys, the more I work with Scarlet Spider Comics, the more like amazing it is that you have truly. How many $15 credits have we given? Like hundreds. So what the deal is, why this exists, is that Whatnot is like secondary to eBay. And I have a feeling that they want to overtake eBay. They want to be known as a major player. So that's why they're giving out all these $15 credits. Like, it sounds crazy. It sounds maybe scammy or something like that. It's not. They're above board. They're legit. They're going to be a major player. Many major celebrities are on there selling things, especially wrestling celebrities. If you know, I got the second channel. I talk about wrestling. Danhausen's on there. Matt Cardona's on there. I'm seeing more and more people come to that platform. And you were part of it. You were pioneered it. So how did that happen? How did you come to Whatnot? You met Dana. Let's pick up the story from, I guess, when you ran into Dana and you realized that this was a good relationship. She didn't hit you with any crowbars. That's remarkable.
No, I mean,
that's your first sign that things are better is when they don't hit you with a crowbar on the first date. Yeah.
Yeah, like given my past, though, of course, I don't realize a good idea when I look at it. So.
Oh no! You sound really familiar right now. If I had like $100 for every time my wife told me like a good idea and then I did it like 10 years later, like, yeah, I'd be very rich.
Yeah.
I dismissed it at the time. I was like, you're stupid. That's a bad idea. And then 10 years later, I'm like, why didn't I do this earlier? This is a great idea.
It was a great idea. But so Dana and I did like 3 months of treatment together. Got very close. I couldn't keep my sobriety though in the sober house, and I was back in the only place I could be, which is the ex who has way too many crowbars.
Oh no, that's a bad cycle right there.
Yeah. So I mean, long story short though, it was Dana and a friend of ours we met at treatment that eventually, like, I'm a bloody mess in a bed. I've just been trapped there for like weeks on end. Got arrested somehow in there too. I don't know how you get arrested staying at home, but Dana and the friends showed up, and Dana got me back into Pride immediately, just so we could get that sorted and then come up with a plan afterwards. And I was only there a month the second time, but we had decided, like, up to that point, there's this. It's not problematic, but there's definitely a cycle of you get so used to doing these treatment centers and going right to a sober home, then failing, then repeating. And I wanted so badly to try something else, and that involved Dana and I living together. And so we got an apartment right after my second time at Pride, moved in and went all right for a bit. Two addicts living together, if things aren't sorted, is extremely volatile.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like, this has a lot of potential for failure. You know, this is not the ideal. This is not what they would recommend you do.
No, I don't recommend it either. Yeah, but
this is a dangerous situation. It's remarkable that things have worked out as well as they have.
And like, I mean, these will, like, now what I guess I'll say, kind of a lot of this journey, whether it be the comics or what I'm about to say, is key aspects, I guess, of who we are as people and what we want to be, but they're not working very well with the drugs and the alcohol. And so immediately upon moving in, our friend that helped save me, he started relapsing, and we were struggling ourselves at that point. So we're like, you know, it's a good idea. Let's help out this meth addict and move him in with us our first 2 months in our
more addicts
phase. Yeah, more addicts, more needles.
What could go wrong?
Everything. And eventually he got into treatment, and it wasn't even enough there. We wanted to help more people, apparently, while we were sick.
Wow.
This Ukrainian woman and her white husband from, I can't remember the country in Africa, but they kind had a daughter. They got kicked out of the apartment. They had nowhere to go because they had to be in London. So we're like, we've got rid of the meth addict that was living with us, but now we're going to adopt a international family and move them into this 1 bedroom apartment with addicts. Kept them for a month. Man, so many stories from that, but eventually got them to London, and we were just so exhausted after all this, like too tired to care about drugs, I believe.
Okay.
Just we like it, there's a mutual, I think, understanding between Dana and I that like we have wasted so much of our time here, not only on the drugs, but in not being together. Like we are spending our time trying to help people when we can't help ourselves. Yeah. And so we both just kind of ended up, I think, tiptoeing into sobriety with no real plan. And it just kind of started sticking. I got more time to work on my eBay stuff, which eventually ended up being an ad for Whatnot off Comic Tom, who I mentioned earlier. I saw him doing it, and we're like, we're going to try this.
And pioneer it, really. I mean, when you guys came to me with this, Whatnot was extremely new. It looked more scammy. When I first looked at Whatnot, it was like way sus. Now you've got so many big people on it that it looks like it's clear that this is legit. It always was. But like it just looked a little more off. Like, am I gonna not get the stuff I order? Sell. It's a weird thing. It's super fun though. I'll tell you what, it really made sense to me the first time I went to an auction, especially your auctions, how much fun it is to do the auctions in real time. It's almost like a mini convention meetup because you're hanging out with a bunch of people who are into the same stuff you're into, and there's chatting going on. So it's more of a social thing than eBay. It's like a nameless, faceless guy. I'm like trying to snipe out. I'm up at midnight waiting for that timer, and I'm gonna undercut him. You know, it's much different here, and there's giveaways, and there's all this interactivity, and you're the person. It's like a Twitch stream and an eBay together. It's very cool. It's just very cool. It's very interesting, and if you haven't checked it out, you should. I'm just plugging this hard. I'm plugging this so hard, and the link is down below for $15. It is fun. Yeah. So you have this new activity now with Whatnot. Yeah. Where it is this social thing.
He's done everything they would recommend in treatment without it being like treatment ordered. We're being social. We're trying.
There you go.
We get to be creative. We have structure, accountability.
I imagine that you've shared your story with the people on Whatnot. You spend a lot of time on there, right?
A little bit, yes. A lot of them know lots of bits and pieces of it.
Like little breadcrumbs, right? I hope some people are coming to this interview and getting the whole story. Leave a comment below. It's good for engagement, everyone.
I would want to point out though, I mean, definitely if you have the free time, there's a TED Talk on it. There's a comic for it as well. But there's a story about what's called Rat Park, and it's these rats in a maze, and they get I think it's cocaine water or regular water.
Okay.
And it's the isolated rats every single time, ones with no hope and they're lonely, are drinking the cocaine water until they basically die. And the ones that get to be together with other rats pick the water almost every single time.
Wow.
And the story of that was the connection and purpose that maybe addicts need to find sobriety. And so the purpose is definitely the story, but the connection and probably the real groundwork was my connection with Dana. So those two things were probably what keeps this going today.
And like a healthy dialogue about it. I guess if we end up using this as the title and thumbnail, I'm not sure, but you were talking about having it's easier to quit drugs than it is to quit like Marvel Strike Force, mobile video games. And I kind of resonate with what you're saying because I helped so many people quit playing mobile video games because I created a space for people to talk openly about their addiction to mobile video games. And many people were sharing their story about quitting and being better and just acknowledging the elephant in the room. Whereas other content creators that cover mobile games will never speak of the elephant in the room because it's against their better interest to have their viewers quit the game that they're covering. But since I wasn't interested in profits or whatever, or, sustaining myself off of my audience like some kind of horrible parasite, What am I dissing other content creators even in this interview? I'm hopeless, but
I might want to sponsor them one day or burn my
yeah, I
bridges.
don't know. I got to stop that line of conversation. But anyways, what you're saying fits true to me because I've seen it happen. It's that community that helps you realize that what you're doing, pulling you out of your funk. If I'm in the closet, if I'm in the bathroom playing mobile video games or doing drugs or whatever I'm doing it by myself. I'm never going to find the way out. I'm only talking to me. I have no perspective on what's going on. I'm just so self-absorbed that it's impossible to find your way out. So that's amazing that doing the Whatnot auctions gave you that system where it might have been very difficult to find otherwise, like that avenue.
For sure. Yeah.
That's wild.
I mean, so many things had to go right in terms of, I mean, I think the stimulation of this job too, the learning and figuring out what's a key, what's important, the history
I
of
gotta
it.
talk about that. You know some weird stuff about comic books. You know things about comic books that regular people don't know. You posted the other day on Instagram that you guys got like a order of comic books and they were damaged, but inside there was an ad for a jewelry store. And this made the comic books valuable in some way, shape, or form.
It saved that whole order.
What?
There are these Mark Jewelers. I think Mark Jewelers is still a company. I don't know, but Mark Jewelers used to put these inserts in 10% of their comics.
Who
and they never
cares?
survived. Nobody
Who
except
cares?
us, apparently.
But the thing is, they only put them in 10% of comics.
10% of like a 10%, because
That's
they're like
not
10%
a lot.
of
That's rare.
newsstands. Yeah,
So it's stupid, but it's rare. And if it's rare, there's a market, right?
exactly.
Oh, that's so
it's not my
weird.
thing, but I'm glad I can do something with it.
But it's someone's thing. Someone out there is
Yeah.
like, they're into collecting all the weird ads that show up in comic books.
Yeah.
And these are the rare
Perfect.
ads. These are the good ones. It's hilarious. And they're not like the old Hostess ads. I get the Hostess thing because those are actual comics. I used to read the
those
old
are
comics.
great.
Those are great. This is just it's just an insert. It's like a glossy.
Yeah, I mean, in your like 60-cent comic book,
just
if you want some
rings.
$2,000 gold, here's your insert.
Who the hell bought those? It must have been some weird test. Like, you think kids want to buy rings?
God, where was the market here?
Yeah. What are you doing? And then you educated me. I like going to your auctions because you throw out these bits of information that'll educate you. And I love learning weird stuff. And the difference between a market stand and a what is the other one?
Oh, a direct edition and a
Direct
newsstand.
to distribution or newsstand. So some comic books are sent to newsstands and sold, and they have like a barcode on them. And then the other ones are sent directly to shops, and they do not have a barcode. Yeah, there's like this whole thing.
Newsstand.
Same comic, one has a barcode, one doesn't. One is more valuable than the other. It's so weird. There's so much just weird knowledge on there that you wouldn't know otherwise. Like we could be staring at a rare comic book worth money, and we have no idea if you don't have this kind of knowledge.
It's like I have a new respect for anybody who tries to sell like their grandparents' attic when they find them. There's a lot to know.
It's hard to know what is garbage and what is valuable.
Yeah.
It's like you would just think this comic's garbage, but oh no, it has this rare insert of jewelry, a jewelry ad in it. This is now worth something. It's the same thing when I started going down the AW action figure rabbit hole. Like you find out, what actually is rare, what isn't, and not everything is as it seems. Like it gets weird down these little niche collectibles markets.
I mean, like I'm like tip of the iceberg in terms of like comic knowledge too. I mean, I'm playing catch up with a lot of these giants, but I mean, the community for comics is generally great, and there's a lot to learn from the people you deal with. So that's been helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's an amazing story that you have. Thank you for sharing it with us. That is wild. I'm so glad that it worked out.
Me too.
And I feel fortunate to be a part of your story in some way, and for you to continue, for us to continue working together and having you on the show. Is there anything else you want to tell people out there? You've been such a big part of the Gravedigger community now for so many years.
I mean, I guess if there's for some reason one person out there struggling right now and you do stick through this video, there is no right answer. There's no easy way to get to where you want to be if you're struggling with this crap. Um, like it says, I'd recommend purpose. Just don't give up, obviously, but purpose. Just find something, hold on to it.
Yeah.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a lot of sense. If you have something in your life that is important to you that is not your addiction, it is something that you can hold on to and get yourself out of it for sure. Maybe what we've done on this channel, I definitely feel less addicted to Marvel Strike Force than I ever have before. Doing different content and branching out, and like my addiction is now YouTube. Like if it hasn't become clear to people, I'm clearly addicted to YouTube now. And just making good videos. I've tried to take it real positive, like not just views, because I'm not getting those, but just making good content, you know. And I really like this series. I really like having people like yourself on here to share their stories and talk to them about things. It feels better to me to do this than to, you know, hawk mobile gaming or, you know, addiction basically, and kind of feed into that cycle. I feel bad that I won't be helping people anymore kind of break out of it, but maybe a video like this can help someone break out of a real bad addiction cycle that isn't, you know, mobile video games. Who knows, sir? But sharing stories like this, I know it's super helpful to people out there who are going through it, to hear that other people are struggling as well and have found their way out. Things were really bad. This could have ended so much worse.
Yeah, by far.
I'd say in a lot of cases it does not end with someone sitting in front of a wall of expensive comics. It does not go that well. So I'm very happy that it has turned out so well for you, and I hope anybody else out there who is watching to this point, who is struggling, can find their way. It's possible. You can do it. So to close out this video, just in case there's anyone watching here who is struggling and does need help with addiction, Taylor, you were going to tell us about a form that can be filled out so that you can get free treatment. Is that right?
Yeah, you can either look at the Twin Cities, Minnesota, anywhere in Minnesota, look on either their county websites for what's called a Rule 25.
Is this just in Minnesota, or is a lot of states have this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure other states may have programs, but generally Minnesota tends to be the only state with anything like this.
Oh, wow. So step one, move to Minnesota.
Exactly. And if you call any treatment like center in Minneapolis, Minnesota, any whatever, they will set you up with how to do a Rule 25 too. So they will figure out how to get you there. They will make sure your insurance either covers it, or that if it doesn't, they'll make sure they find you a free one. So that's a huge resource.
Okay, that's a good thing. Yeah. Look out there, and if anyone has any other tips for people struggling in different states, leave them down in the comments below. I'm sure that there are other programs that you can take advantage of in whatever state you're in. Where there's a will, there's a way. If you want to get clean, you know, there are programs to take advantage of in most places. Maybe unless you live in a really, really backwards place that doesn't care about people at all. I think there's a few bad states. My wife tells me there's a few states you just don't go there. There's bad states. They're like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and get better. They're not supporting you. I wouldn't live in a place like that. I'm sure there's stuff here in New Jersey to help you out. We're pretty caring. We're like those bleeding heart liberal types in New Jersey. Those are the best types. But it's good to know there's some other states out there that give a crap as well. I know the healthcare in Alaska is very, very kind, because everybody goes nuts in Alaska. That's where I'm from. And everybody there suffers from mental health problems, and we have a really good, because of that, it's the light thing. It goes like 24 hours of sunlight to 24 hours of darkness.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes everybody nuts. So everybody's crazy. And so they had to develop really good state health care, or else everybody would be running around, you know, with handguns, blowing each other away. So
true detective night country.
Yeah, they had to do it, you know, and then they're not going to find the bodies until summer because they freeze. All right, this video's gotten crazy dark, but But it's also been crazy fun. Thank you for coming along, Scott Spider Comics Taylor. And guys, once again, use that link down below. Get your free $15. Go hang out with Taylor and Dana on Whatnot. I feel like I should play the spot again. I don't think I'm going to play the spot again. But go watch the spot again. Go watch more videos from myself. And go check out. Oh, you guys are Twitch streaming now.
Yeah, we're working
Twitch
into
streaming.
it. I'll be eventually here showing off orders that come in before I put them in the show on Twitch. So
Oh,
see how
fun.
that
You're
works
doing
out.
like unboxings.
Yeah, I'll give you some real content because otherwise we're just showing you a wall while we live stream Whatnot, and that's not very exciting. But
Yeah, I like the unboxings. Do you have like a set schedule for when you're on Twitch?
no, not right now. I'm just multicasting from Whatnot just to
Okay.
knock off the hours. So we're not even worth
right.
watching on Twitch yet. But
All right, you got to get serious. You got to get regimented. Got to pick a day and a
Yeah.
time. And I've been streaming every Wednesday and Friday at 6 p.m. and I don't even know why I do it anymore. But I've just been sticking to those times now for like 3 years.
zombie your way to the
I
basement.
don't know
each night.
what I've done. I don't know why did I pick those times? Like I think I talk about it often. I'm like, why am I doing 6 p.m. on Wednesdays and Fridays? I don't know. But here I am, and I'm still there. So if you guys want to come check that out as well, if you don't already know, I talk about that to death. Go do that. I don't know why I'm plugging myself in your interview. All right, we're off the rails officially. Thank you so much, Taylor, for joining us. You know what we tell the grave diggers.
Keep digging.
He is I and I am him, and I'm the undisputed trend Nat Taven. And this dork behind the camera, some Melvin told me to say, grave diggers keep on digging. Whatever that means.
I am AEW wrestler and Ring of Honor tag champ Mike Bennett. And remember, grave diggers keep digging, but not the monster truck. Even though my son really likes that monster truck, I kind of like Son of a Digger, and so I'm going off on a tangent about monster trucks because my son really loves monster truck, but we're talking about the YouTube channel, so make sure, grave diggers, keep on digging, baby.
So this Mark doing one happy private party, saying what up to the grave diggers and doing your thing, bro.
Alright, like, subscribe, and watch another video, or be cursed. If you're cursed, that means the grave diggers will keep digging your graves. So, you probably want to do it.
Shout out to like Comic Tom 101 on YouTube. I think he mentions the best way to get more comics is to sell comics. And I'm like, this sounds familiar to the drug game, but okay.
I've heard a lot of addiction recovery stories, and I don't think I've ever heard one quite like that.